You said one thing I've just been grinding on me lately is just how everyone out here is obsessed with like self-improvement in ways that it creeps into their lives and it affects everyone around them.
In some ways it's addiction, in some ways it's culty.
Right.
So just to give people some context here, I now live in California. One of the great things about California is people are like super conscious and aware of making themselves better, making the world better, which is great. I love that intentionality. Yeah. I'm just going to put it out there. You know, there's a lot of great stuff that goes on in this part of the world, but there's this weird kind of junky, culty vibe here where it's almost like people don't know how to just hang out. Like
just be.
Like,
yeah.
My wife and I, we constantly get these invitations, you know, and it'll be like, come over for a Saturday brunch with our friends, and we're going to have mimosas, and we're going to do this. And we're going to do guided meditations with our personal guru and blah, 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 blah. And it's like...
Put a gun in my mouth. God.
It's like... You had us at brunch. You didn't need to introduce a whole fucking ideology into our Saturday morning. So like that's
set your intentions.
That's gotten a little bit tiresome, and I think it's bugging me a lot because I'm in this industry, and what I've found out here too is that everybody out here thinks that. They assume that I must be into it. They're like, well, he's like a self-help author. So
of course he would be, yeah.
Of course he's going to be totally into the guided meditation sound bath before he eats his eggs at brunch. And I'm like, no, this is my job. Like I'm off the clock. I don't want to be like thinking about this stuff. So it's bugged me a little bit, but I do think there's an interesting conversation around here of like, when does self-improvement become compulsion? Mm-hmm. When does it turn into an addiction? It's admirable to always want to improve yourself, but it's also an affliction if you don't know how to stop. Mm-hmm. Like sometimes the best thing you can do for yourself is nothing.
Is nothing, right? Yeah.
Is just enjoy who you are in the moment, without any sort of like, production or or process or whatever. So that's been grating on me lately.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, we just did an episode not too long ago on the backwards law, right?
Yeah.
And at what point does trying to improve yourself only highlight all of the things that are wrong with you? And I think that probably gets lost in some of this too, right?
The irony is I think at a certain point it becomes a form of avoidance.
Yeah.
It's like, well, if I just keep booking all these new like gurus and sound baths and all this shit, then it's like I'm always being introduced into a new modality. So I'm always learning a new modality. So I'm not actually responsible for changing anything in my life because I'm always like, there's like this constant process of like learning the new thing instead of just returning to your life and living and like trying to integrate all the things you're learning into actually like being a better person. So yeah, I don't know. It's a funny thing of like, I tend to write about self-help or self-improvement. Like it's not an intervention. It's not like steroids. It's not like, oh, you went to this seminar and now you're just going to get like 40% more jacked than you would have otherwise. Self-help is more like hygiene. It's like
it's boring.
It's boring. It's dull. It's repetitive. And if it does get too exciting, it's actually probably not doing a whole lot.
And so you think a lot of people who invite you to these things, they're trying to put on these like little mini self-help seminars themselves. It almost feels like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a ton of that here. There's a ton of that here. And it's actually, and it even gets to the point where it's like, you'll go somewhere, you'll go to like a dinner or something and they'll curate the conversation. So like they'll put 6 people at a table and then the host will break out like note cards and like, there'll be like a guided conversation of like everybody's going to take turns and have 5 minutes where they talk about what they're working on in their life right now. And it's like, can we just talk about like the Netflix show we're watching? Like, I don't know. Yeah. I like some of that. Some of that can be useful and good, but it's just like when it's a constant thing and it never stops, like when people don't know how to socialize without that, then that's a problem.
Right. It's like alcohol, right? If they don't know how to socialize without alcohol, it's like the addiction that you're talking about, that part of it.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think the lesson here is just like being aware of when the drive to improve and change yourself is actually part of the problem.
You read Michael Pollan's How to Change Your Mind, right?
Yeah.
You remember that part in there, or that he has this, I kind of saying throughout it, I think, where he's like, I had to be very conscious of not doing being. Remember that? Like I'm trying to just be, but trying to just be.
Yes.
You know, like I feel like this is like an extreme example of that. People are like, I'm trying to be and live in the moment. I'm trying so hard that I'm doing being.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
That's a mind fuck in its own, but yeah.
There's some things that it's, you only improve them by like letting go and not trying. And I think a lot of like psychological based stuff is similar to that. I don't know. I sometimes I have a few theories around this. You know, one of them is, like, it's funny. I wrote about this a little bit in my second book, Everything is Fucked. But like now that I'm out here, I definitely feel it. It feels like church. It like feels like,
it is.
It feels
it
like
is church.
No, it feels like it's almost like a religious thing. Like it's like everybody, you know, is into the same yoga, does the same meditations, and you know, takes the same ayahuasca, and so they like get together every week and they like practice rituals around it.
That's church.
It's totally fucking church. But if you tell them that, like if you say that, I don't know. I think they don't conceptualize. They don't realize what they're doing is actually quite religious and faith based. And I feel like if you said that, if I expressed that to them, they would probably take offense or get very defensive about it. Maybe not. I don't know. But so that's one working theory, is that it's a church thing. We already talked about the addiction thing. I also think that some of it is just like, it's a higher order way of coping with neuroticism. So, you know, William James believed that it's actually impossible to solve addiction. You just replace one addiction with others. And I think in some of these people's cases is like they are like highly neurotic or compulsive people. And if they're not compulsive towards self-improvement or like biohacking or meditation or whatever, they would be very compulsive towards like very destructive things.
Okay.
And so this is kind of like, it's almost like this is the least worst. Because I've noticed a lot of, for a place that it has a reputation for being very laid back, I actually find a lot of people out here in California are very compulsive. Like there's
a lot of neuroticism.
There's a lot of neuroticism.
Yeah.
But again, there's like a lack of self-awareness around it. Like it's, because the compulsion is around things that we associate with relaxation, things like yoga, meditation, spa treatments, beauty, nature. I think people assume that they must be very relaxed and like low key. But as somebody who's not from here, coming out here, it strikes me as a very neurotic place. So some of it strikes me as like, and part of this too, like this is where I identify with it, because it's like, I think one of the things that I'm learning the last couple of years is that I'm a lot more addictive or compulsive than I thought I was. But when I'm here, my addictions and compulsions are like quite healthy or fairly healthy. Whereas if you put me in like New York City or Brazil or wherever, I'll just like fucking destroy myself.
Right. Well, and going back to the religion thing, what is self-improvement or self-help? Yeah. If it's not like a form of religion, in a way, right? I mean, if you take a lot of the mysticism out of the major religions, it really looks a lot like self-help. I had a friend one time who like made this observation. She went to church, it had been a long time, and she came out and she's like, that felt like a mini self-help seminar. Yeah. Because it is very much prescriptive, and this is how you should live your life and all that.
Well, religion was the original self-help, right? You know, it's like, it used to be if you had marriage problems, you went to a pastor, right? It used to be if you had psychiatric issues, you got an exorcism. Yeah. You know, let's bring exorcisms back.
Fuck yes.
Let's make that a thing.
That would be pretty cool, actually.
Play some metal music. Would be awesome. I'm so in for an exorcism. Wouldn't that be funny? Be like, you know, I should try this. I should go to like the next California dinner party I go to, and everybody starts talking about their shaman. I'm gonna be like, guys, you know what the new thing is? Exorcism.
Bring a priest in.
I found this great Catholic priest. He will He will pull all the demons out of you. It is life-changing. You guys need to check this out. I wonder if they would if they would bite. If they
I kind of doubt it, but I don't know. I don't know.
It's not very California. It's Catholic.
It is really interesting though if you do point out to somebody that, hey, this is like really kind of like religious behavior, and or it mimics a lot of things about religion, and they get very defensive about it.
Yes,
that to me, like, I don't know if somebody points
and
that
historically, when I've brought this up in writing, it's a very polarizing thing.
For sure.
And the funny thing is I think religious people recognize that. Like, so I've been invited on religious podcasts with pastors and preachers and priests and stuff.
Which is insane if you but okay.
And they are 100% aware of that. Yeah. I've had conversations, I've spoken in the Middle East. I've had conversations with audiences of Muslims, and they're like, yeah, everything you talk about, like, we're here for
There's a crazy number of like Muslims who come and say, this is actually, this is all in the Quran. Like,
yeah. So I think religious people get that like self-help is kind of just the secularized version of religion, where it's the secular people who are like, no, this is scientific.
Right.
Whereas if you actually go look at the research, there's not a whole lot of science going on.
Right. Yeah. And science itself can turn into a religion pretty quickly too. So
that is true too. That's a whole nother episode.
There's that.
What else?
I think that's it for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, if any of you out there know a good Catholic priest, I'm interested in an exorcism. Who can give me a good rate on an exorcism? Maybe give me like one of those cards when you get like 10 exorcisms, they give you the 11th for free.
Like at your local coffee shop, and you like a punch card,
like the Jimmy John's. Oh God. Frequent sandwich card. Hey everybody, thanks for watching. This was a clip from the Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck podcast. We release podcasts weekly on YouTube and everywhere where you can get podcasts. So be sure to subscribe, follow us on Apple, Spotify, wherever you like listening to stuff, because we're gonna have a lot more stuff to listen to. Check it out.